What's up, everybody? It is Self Care Shiro K Johnson, and today we have a special guest. She's been my seamstress this season for Miss Tennessee with the Miss America organization, and we have Miss Savannah Darden, right?
Hi.
Okay, so Miss Savannah, she's never been on any type of YouTube or any type of podcast. So we're going to have some grace with her, okay? And we're going to embrace her. A little bit about her, what I know, I met her through my great aunt, my grandmother's sister, and they're good friends. And we met literally during this Miss Tennessee time. So she has been an extreme blessing to me during my preparation time. And I just have to publicly acknowledge it and also tell you in person that I'm so thankful for you.
Thank you.
And your skills and your craft. And so I just asked Miss Savannah, I said, what year were you born? And she was born in the 1940s.
1941.
1941.
December 26th, the day after Christmas.
The day after Christmas. Now, yeah, I was born in 1996. So we literally have 55 years or so between the two of us.
Right.
But Miss Savannah, if you're wondering why this young lady want to put me on her podcast, number one, I just think that we can learn from anybody, no matter what age you are, even if you're a baby, if you're in your 90s,
That's
whatever
true.
the case may be.
That's true.
I think you can learn from anybody. And so today I want to learn a little bit about you and learn more about your journey, just kind of what you've seen through life, and even about your marriage, because your husband is in the kitchen right now.
Right.
He's eating
We've been married 56 years.
56 years. Good grief. That's a long time.
Yes.
And he's eating a hamburger that you cooked for him
He's
right
eating
now.
hamburgers that cook for.
Oh my goodness.
The
Okay.
easiest thing.
Yes, a hamburger is really easy. I love
Yes.
a good hamburger. So the first question I'll ask you is more along the lines of your seamstress, your seamstress skills. So I remember when we talked a little bit, you told me that your grandmother
My grandmother.
taught you.
She did.
Okay, so how old were you when she taught you? Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Probably started getting interested in her work when I was in high school, so I was about 14. I had been watching her before then. My grandmother was for a person who hadn't really finished elementary school, let alone high school or college. She was very skilled. She would make wedding dresses, but that was before I knew her. But she had wound it down by the time I got to old enough to pay attention, and she could take anything and make something out of it. And I would watch her. I'd go to her house, and she had an old tread sewing machine. It wasn't electric. You had to pedal it yourself. And so she taught me how to do that. And she wasn't gonna let nobody mess with her sewing machine for very, very much. So she saw I was interested. Well, when I went to high school, I took a home economics class, and one of the 7 areas of home economics was clothing, and they teach you how to sew, to lay out the patterns, and so I learned from there. But then I would take my work to my grandmother's house, and she would help me finish it, and then I'd make an A on my work, And so I just began to piddle around with it. I didn't have a sewing machine at home. I'm the oldest of 9 children at my house, and it was 11 at one time. It was 11 us with mother and daddy, So, but my grandmother had 4 daughters and 1 son, and then neither of her daughters took up the sewing from her. I guess they were tired of looking at it or watching it, and then each of them had daughters. None of their daughters took it up, So even now, some of them they have me to work for them. Do like put zippers in pants. Most of what I do now is alterations. But I have made dresses. In fact, one year I made my daughter's prom dress. Uh, I wouldn't make one for anybody else because those girls are so picky with that.
Oh my goodness, the dresses nowadays are so extravagant. Oh my goodness.
Yes, and so from there, and when after I got married, moved to Nashville. My home is in Kentucky, Logan County, Kentucky. So I got married, moved to Nashville, Tennessee. So the first sewing machine I owned was a singer, and my husband does construction work. Well, he did, and he worked for a company who built the 100 Oaks shopping mall. That was the first mall of its kind here in Nashville. It was in 1966.
I still wasn't born yet, y'all.
No, he wasn't. And so they had some shops, and so he bought me a nice Singer sewing machine, the first sewing machine that I actually owned, because I used to go to my uncle's house and use his old sewing machine. But, So anyway, so I decided to learn a little bit more. I signed up for a sewing class at Pearl High School. They had classes for adult and community education. So I started out taking a computer, and in that year, I don't remember exactly what year it was when they started using the computers. So that was before you were born also. And so by that I said, well, I'm going to take computer class because I want to learn about that. This is something new. Well, I wasn't very successful with that. It didn't seem like something that I needed at that time because my job was working in food service, and I worked at what was then was Baptist Hospital in food and nutrition. So that was our work. That had nothing to do with sewing. And then the computer class that I was taking, it just wasn't something that I could get much out of. So they had other classes. They had cooking classes, sewing classes. So I signed up for the sewing classes, and I was able to learn a lot from the teacher there. I remember the teacher's name was Lindozia Scales. I don't even know if she's still living there or not, but she was real smart. But the thing is, I knew enough about it to know what to ask questions about. And so that helped.
Yeah. Questions, you have to know the questions. Questions lead you to the answers. And sometimes we're not successful. We don't achieve certain things because we don't know the right questions to ask.
The right questions to ask.
Yeah, know the questions to ask. And that just comes from time being put in and, getting the education and having the confidence to ask those questions too.
So in that, you always can learn that there's always something else to learn. It's always, and even then I learned it. It's always much, and I bought books, that. So even now, it's still a lot to learn. I've learned some things from you.
She's learning how to be on YouTube right now.
Yes, right now. Right now. Yeah.
And you're doing a wonderful job. So
thank you. Thank you.
They gonna either like it or love it. But we know over here we don't care. We living on our purpose and we're living on God's plan. So it is what it is.
It's God's plan. Every day I can see that it's God's plan. And,
so let me ask you this. I heard you say that your grandmother, she only had an elementary education. And from some of the elders that I've spoken with, and I really want you to make this real for the folks that are so far removed from cotton picking days and being out of school because you had to pick fruit or whatever the case may be, or grain or whatever the case may be. Did you yourself have to miss school because you had to pick any cotton or pick any fruit? Or do you remember your brothers or your mother or somebody close in vicinity to you having to do that, being that you were born in 1941?
Well, in the era that in which I grew up, the main industry for farming, and my daddy was a sharecropper on the farm, it was tobacco, corn, wheat, and of course growing gardens and vegetables. We always had huge gardens, and we had to process the food. It was canning. We and when we before we got a freezer to freeze it, we everything was canned, even the meat from where they would kill hogs. Well, we had chickens. We would kill and eat chickens. The chickens would lay eggs. It was just basic farming. But now we girls, and there was 2 girls and 7 boys.
Okay.
My family. The boys often had to stay out of school to work the tobacco crops, and when it was time. So they missed school a lot. And in fact, my baby brother was the only one who, at that time, actually graduated from high school because they would get so far behind. And there are other young men, boys in the community whose fathers did the same thing. They missed school a lot. But as time went on, some of them just went back and got their GED, education, and got jobs and were able to buy homes and support their families, and just from hard work, And so yes, we girls didn't have to miss school much. The only time we missed school very much was maybe because we had so far to walk, because back then there wasn't school buses available to the Black community schools.
Now, I was about to say, now, were you segregated? Did you grow up in a segregated school? And then how did you yourself notice the difference between the education that you were getting or receiving early on, or when did you realize, oh, we're segregated?
Well, we were always we were always segregated, because, and I was going to say, we had so far to walk to and from school that when it was bad weather, we just time just didn't go. But when I began to realize the difference in the education from between by the time we were integrated, incidentally, the first year I went to integrated school was in 1956. And so that was when I entered high school. And I certainly have noticed that things that I hadn't heard of before, they had already had. So I had to really work hard. I had to dig into the library. I had to just really study and read and study hard to catch up and keep up. So that was just, for high school. Yes, that was when I really realized that
just different.
Books were different. Yes,
books were different. Schools were different. Were they more advanced? Were the schools bigger?
They were more advanced with books. They had the library. I had never been to a school that had a library, and because like you said, they were segregated. So we had a few books on the shelf somewhere, but this to me a huge library, and I spent a lot of time in that library.
Look, a lot of people ain't spending a lot of time in libraries these days, but I will say there are people that do spend some time in the library.
well, they have the internet, computers. My grandchildren we have a whole set of encyclopedias, but they don't pay any attention to it. The first thing they do is get their phone.
Yeah, I think I go to my phone first nowadays as well. I can't even lie to you.
Well, that's good. It's educational, and it's up with the times, and that's good. That at least you have something to refer to. Yeah, and that's good.
And you just have to decipher through that information, because some of it's not valuable, it's not real, But even in those books that we didn't have access to back in your times of growing up and going to high school and stuff, even some of those books did not expound on the whole truth.
Right.
For you, I'm gonna keep it like I'm gonna say it just like that. That sounds like it's politically correct, right?
Well, it's correct. You are correct.
Okay, so we've talked about your journey with being a seamstress and learning from your grandmother. We talked about your education, and I really love that because we see where your skill and how your knowledge has become wisdom within your specific industry of altering clothes, making dresses, or whatever the case may be. So my next question, I think I just have two more. My next question is, well, maybe I have three. Anyway, so my next question is, when it comes to marriage, what are some of the maybe three, I don't want to give you too many, but if you could pull some wisdom out for us these days, being that you've been married for 56 years and you're still married right now today,
yes,
and you all seem happy. Mr. Charlie seems like he's such a happy. I hope he just comes on in and just says hello. But you guys seem to have not have it all figured out, but to seem to just be at peace in life and in your marriage. And right now, this climate for dating and whatever else is just so different from when you all started out. So could you give us some pieces of wisdom that you've learned in marriage?
Concerning marriage, well, in the first place, I wasn't going to leave. We didn't have the opportunity to, as young women, to leave our mother and father's home and get jobs and get our own place and all like that, because for one thing, the jobs was not available at that time, and so that was what was expected of you. So I was 24 years old when we got married, and my husband Charlie was 28. Well, one thing what we've always, and not that we haven't had problems, disagreements, and almost knocked down, drag outs, fusses, and not physical, but really just and verbal, saying things. Yes, right, verbal, and just and attitudes and things like that. Because in marriage, you have most of the time you have two different people from two different worlds in a way. Okay, I was reared with a house full of people and oldest of 9 children. He was the only child. And so the little bit
very different,
spoiled. And many times you have two different people from two different worlds, society that grew up in different kind of environment. And so and the first thing, you have a man and a woman trying to combine into one, and ideals and things are very different. So you have to, along the way, you learn to first respect each other, desire each other's wishes above your own. You know, you always thinking. I'm always thinking, what decision is what's best for him, and he's the same with me. You know, and so not that we don't have ups and downs, but by our age, the things that bothered you a lot, like for one thing, he's somewhere and I don't know where he is, something, a little bit of jealousy and all of those little things. But by the time you get our age, those little things don't matter. That mattered, back then. And so you just kind of just forget about those little things and learn to be, like you said, at peace. Sometimes we have little flare-ups, but we just know we have figured out that we don't want to be without each other. Oof. So that's the idea of like, you can't. What's that? It's a saying that says you can't live with them and you can't live without them.
That's it.
And respect is the most important.
Woo! You said that first, and that just hit me so different because I think that in my generation and the generation that's coming after me, there's so much out there that makes you feel like I ain't got to deal with you. You know, you just continue to feed pride and jealousy, and you feel like people are so disposable. But there is only one Savannah. You know what I mean? There's only one Charlie.
Right.
There's only one Kay. Mm-hmm. And there's only one you out there listening. And so you're not disposable. If you're alive, you're here for a reason. And whoever you choose to spend your life with, you know, you chose them. And so choosing to respect them, I'm pretty sure for you, Mr. Savannah, was a daily choice. And you might have found yourself on days where you're like, oh, I didn't respect him like I should have.
Right. Oh, yes. And then there have been days that they have thought, what was I thinking? Where did I get this man from? I mean, and I'm sure he's had the same.
Right.
For me, you know. So, but then then you have to pray a lot, and you have to pray together. We start out praying together, and ask God. It's just the right. It's that everything you do in life, you ask God, you pray to God, and then you feel like this is what God has directed me to do. You know, and this is what, whatever I have learned either on my own or from somebody else, in the work that I do, I feel like it's developed from the natural gift from God.
So y'all heard it here first. Respect your spouse, respect the person that you're entertaining, and respect the person that you're thinking about colliding with. You know, she said you're taking two people from two different worlds and you're bringing them together, and you want to respect. It's a daily choice, and I'm still learning. You know, I'm still learning.
I'm about 80 years old. I turned 80 years old. My husband's 85. We both still learning.
Man. Goodness gracious. Okay, and so then my last question, and I'm gonna see if I can get Mr. Charlie in here before we leave to y'all. But my last question is, if you could speak to your younger self, I think it's a twofold question actually, Savannah. I'm gonna tell you to speak to your younger self.
Okay.
And then I'm tell you to speak to your older self. But the first thing I want you to say is speak to your younger self. If you could tell your younger self something that she needed to hear, what would you say? And while you're thinking, I'm going to see if I can get Mr. Charlie.
Okay.
Mr. Charlie.
Hope you didn't go outside.
All right, what you got, Mr. Savannah? He's gonna come.
Okay. You want to go ahead and speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The first question you asked, speaking to my younger self, what advice would I say? Okay. First thing, if I knew then what I know now, it would be wonderful, but I didn't. So I would say to my younger self, first, always put God first in your life, in your decisions. And then plan ahead and think ahead. First thing I would say, make sure you plan ahead for old age. You know, don't just spend what you have just because you have it, you know. And that would be the first thing I would say. Now, I think I would say to my young self. Yes.
Okay. Miss Charlie, come on in. Say hello. We've been talking about you a little bit over here. You want to wave at the camera?
Hello.
All right, I'm going to bring it up some here. And so, Mr. Charlie, this is going to be on YouTube, not immediately, but we'll air it and make it public here soon. But I just wanted to publicly say thank you to your wife for being my seamstress. And we talking about marriage and some of the things that she learned in marriage. And I said maybe we can get Mr. Charlie in here to say hello.
Well, to the public, I want to say hello. And Been married to this lady for 56 years. It's been a great journey, been ups and downs, but we made it. With God's help, we have made it. Thank the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Now, Mr. Charlie, I have one question for you before you exit the room. She gave us what she's learned in marriage, and we want to know from a male's perspective, especially a Black man in America. What would you say has been maybe some large lessons in marriage for you?
Well, in this journey through this 56 years, I learned that marriage is the first thing you got to love somebody with all your heart and soul, and it's a give and take. In this journey with my wife and I, I never tried to boss her, and she never tried to boss her. And she's the one, the money wise, so she do all the billing and everything. And she take care of that. When I trust, we never had no separate bank accounts and everything. It's trust in a marriage, in this marriage, and it's been a great marriage.
Yeah.
I like that. See, you get two different answers when you ask both people, so we got to ask both people. Miss Savannah said respect, and I like you said love and trust, and understanding where she was good at. She was good at the billing, so you let her do it.
Yes.
You making the money, she makes sure the bills is paid.
But we always put both our monies together, and she know how to manage it. That she knew to manage the end of the money.
All right. Yes. Okay, so I just asked Miss Savannah, what would she say to her younger self? What would you say to your younger self?
Well, I don't. Well, I guess we didn't plan the right in our early age, I suppose, because we found in our late years that we all of a sudden a man come to our house and we had 30 or 60 days to get out. And that has been a burden on us, I tell you right now, on our children and our neighbors. But everybody's been so nice, helping us move and finding a place in our old age. I want to thank people for that,
Yeah. So they said it twice, y'all. So I'm just going to say, if you didn't catch it, I'm going to say it one more time. And I'm talking to me too, because I'm 25. And we need to plan for our older age. We need to plan. We need to make sure that we have a plan, because you just never know.
That's true.
Never know what will be the circumstance.
That's true. It is true.
All right. So, do y'all have any last words? If y'all don't have any last words, we'll close out. We'll say bye-bye to the world.
Thank you for inviting me to do this.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Anything you want to say, Mr. Charlie?
I'm going to say thank you, young lady, for inviting us on this podcast.
All right.
And I hope you're well on your journey.
Yes.
The next time, maybe you guys see me, I'll be Miss Tennessee.
Oh, we
hope so. And then Miss America.
We hope so. We hope so.
All right.
Now, we're not dressed like we're going to. We just dressed like we're here around the house. And I think that's what she wanted. Natural.
I got a T-shirt on. And we just here. We just showing up because this is real life.
It's real life.
Real life. All right, everybody. We'll see y'all next time. And remember to be inspired. We love y'all. God bless you.
Bless you.
And vibe out.